Okay, so hi everyone and welcome to our channel, Swiss Family Tesla. Today I'm going to do a little video review showing you the front license plate holder from TorqueLift. You can buy it from TorqueLift Direct, or you can also get it from Evernex. I bought this one from Evernex, and it's called The Law. And the idea is that normally when you buy a Tesla here in Europe, I'm in Switzerland, but I think every European country requires you to have a front license plate. Here in Switzerland we have a very small front plate. It sits in a nice little holder, which in itself is quite smart. The plates come direct from the canton. You can't change them, you can't do anything with them, they are pressed aluminium. And normally Tesla will mount the bracket here on the front, and this is our second Model S, and I thought this time round I would have it done a little bit differently. So instead of mounting it on here, I thought I would go for the Law. And the idea behind the Law is that you don't drill any holes in the bumper, but instead the bracket attaches to the grille underneath here. And this is the grille behind which there are the louvers to open and close to allow air in for the battery cooling and probably the air conditioning as well. The idea behind the kit is that you don't need to drill any holes, but it still keeps everything legal, whilst at the same time not blocking the radar, which I think is around here, or any of the sensors. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the kit works out. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but we'll see how it looks. Okay, so I'm going to open the box up, see what we have inside. It's very well packaged. This was sent direct from the States. So we've got it's worth noting that there are two versions of this license plate bracket. One is for the Model S Refresh, which is this nose cone, and there is the classic version, which is with the round, sort of more traditional car nose cone. So if you're buying one of these, make sure that you get the right one. It's either the Refresh or I think they call it the Classic. And in the instructions, we've got very good instruction manual. So you've got the parts listing here, you have an exploded diagram of it, and nice color pictures that show exactly how you progress with the installation. So it shows you how to remove the original factory bracket if you have that. Obviously I requested that Tesla delivered it without that. And then it shows here, this is the grille that you're looking at underneath, and it shows that there is a piece that goes behind the grille, and then the main bracket at the front will bolt onto that, so it has bolts and holes that go through. And then you have, obviously the bracket has come forwards, and then you can attach your license plate. It does come with a large square bracket that goes on the front, which is what you can attach your United States number plate to. Those of us in Europe will obviously need to adapt it. They do say it's not recommended for anything except US plates, but hey, let's live dangerously. So, looking inside, this is the first bracket that I was talking about there. This is the part that goes behind the grille with the holes in it, and then we're going to make the other part to it. You'll see that we've got what looks like pretty good quality hardware kit, a nice long Allen key, and yeah, all looks very nice. And then here we are, this is the main piece. So you've got the S here showing that it's for the Model S, and so yeah, this one goes behind the grille, and then this one here we're going to mate up against it with the grille sandwiched in between. That will then give us the front here to mount to, and we see that it's got a nice well attached piece of rubber here to stop any nasty vibrations or scratches happening underneath. So in addition to that, this is for the US number plates. The idea is you attach your number plate to this, and then you bolt that directly onto the front there. So you've got a full sort of three-piece kit. Very straightforward. There's no drilling, there's no cutting. You just need to simply bolt these things together, attach your number plate, and away you go. So I'm not going to be needing this part. I'm just going to use these two, and then I will attach this bracket here, which has many different holes and grills and what have you in it, and those two will mate together with the included hardware set, and this is how things should work out. So I'll get started now. I'll fish this little one inside and we'll see how we get on. Right, so I've laid all the bits and pieces out, got everything ready. So I've got the two main pieces of the kit that we're going to be using. In addition, I've got the Allen key that they supply, an 11mm spanner, and we've got the 4 long bolts that will attach the front to the rear bracket. I've got 2 short bolts which will go through the bracket here, and they will go into the nylock bolts which will go behind the main bracket. Once I firmly attach that in, obviously the number plate goes back into it. So it looks like it should be relatively straightforward. I guess the probably the most tricky bit is fishing this into the right place. So it does say in the instructions it's important not to mount it too low, so you have to go over the very top of the grills in there. So of the little vanes in it, we're going to go over the top, and I've already had a look at it, and it seems that it won't actually fit very easily, or even at all, if you try and put it any lower down. So just be careful there, because behind there you're talking about the very fine vanes within the radiator, and you don't want to cause any damage with the back of the bracket there. So I'm going to line up the center, and I can see that there's some plastic sort of vertical parts which we're going to avoid. And it drops over nice and easily. Because you've got the vertical members, you shouldn't lose the bracket going over the back. So it's sitting nicely in there. And I can see that the holes in the bracket line up perfectly with the gaps in the horizontal vanes, which means we should be fine with getting this set in there. So to give you a nice long Allen wrench, which is great because obviously if you have a short one you're going to find it very difficult to get in there. I'll take my 4 bolts. They supply some little lock washers. It's very important that they go in there. There's going to be some vibration going on here, so those little lock washers are going to lock against the metal here. So the whole bracket appears to be made in, I'm guessing it's aluminium, and it's then powder coated. It doesn't feel as heavy as steel, so I'm going to go with aluminium. So let's see if we can get it mounted up. Okay, so I've got 3 out of the 4 bolts in there. It's a bit fiddly to get the first one in, but once you're going then you're absolutely fine. I would recommend doing the top bolts before you do the bottom bolts. It means that the bracket sits a little bit tighter, and it's much easier to locate the bottom ones. So just show you roughly what we're talking about. The long bolts are what we're using here, the 4 supplied long bolts. They have the lock nuts supplied as well, and that's to make sure that everything stays snug with any vibrations as you drive along. So you just reach in, and it really is pretty straightforward. So before you tighten everything fully, it's worth just checking that you're happy everything is in the center. So by hanging something down from the T here, I'm just using the little nameplate that comes with the number plate bracket from Tesla. So I'm perfectly central now, so I'm going to snug them up. It's important to note, and it is mentioned in the instructions, don't tighten these bolts up too tight, because the grill that you're tightening them around and squeezing is only made of plastic. If you tighten them up too much, then you risk crushing that plastic, which is going to cost you a lot of money to replace. So I'm just going to go with the top ones first. I'm going to go like wheel nuts, just Do a little bit on the left, a little bit on the right, see how we feel. Good. There. Nearly there. A lot easier to just do a little bit less than you think rather than a little bit too much. Alright, so that feels very, very secure. And considering I'm going over plastic, I think I'm going to call it a day there. Yeah. Now, at this point it's worth mentioning that there's a gap between the bracket and the fender. And that gap is, well, a little over an inch. It's about 4 centimeters. And I called TorqueLift and I wanted to check with them that maybe I had received the wrong component. It says it's the refresh, but maybe the nose cone version sticks out further and maybe things have got mixed up in the box. TorqueLift informed me that this gap is intentional and that it should be that way. I asked them, you know, is there any way that we can get rid of the gap, because I didn't think it was particularly attractive. The lady on the phone reliably informed me that the gap was there to allow air to get to the engine to cool it, which was a slightly unusual answer. I mentioned that this is for a Tesla which doesn't have an engine, and the lady then said that it was to cool the battery in that case. So it's a little bit touchy subject there, but there's a gap. We're going to have to live with it. So once you've added on the bracket on the front here, I mean, I can see, I'll put a photo in here in a moment, but I can see there is a significant gap, which I think it would be much nicer without it. If I take the bolts that we're going to mount it with and include the thickness of the washer and the plate that we're mounting to here, once I put it through, there's just over 1 centimeter sticking out the back. And there is, well, there's still plenty of space behind the bolts to the fender. So I understand we don't want to be too tight so that you end up scratching something as you install it, but for me it would be nice if that gap wasn't there. But you know, that's the design of the system as it is today, so we're going to have to live with it. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mount the bracket, the number plate bracket, to our nice solid mounted bracket. Okay, so we're nearly at the end of the installation. I'm just going to take the 2 supplied short bolts. They're exactly the same head, so we can use the same Allen key. We're going to use the large washers. These are just normal straight washers, so they're not spring washers. And to secure behind that, we've got nylock bolts, and this will guarantee that these things don't come undone as we drive along. So if I measure it up, I can see that I would like to have it, I think, on the middle height of my brackets, and left and right kind of looks after itself. And if I put the nut on the back there, the second one in, there we go. So I found that an 11mm spanner works. It may be that these are an imperial size nut, I'm not sure, but this seems to work very nicely for me. So working with nylock washers, there's a lot of nylock nuts rather, it's quite a good bit of resistance, and I'm just going to go little by little. Okay, and then I'm going to center it up. fine there. Spot on. On in. And that's the second one in. So now we've got a nice solid mounted bracket. Obviously there's a little movement because it's plastic, but with the nylock bolts that's definitely not going anywhere. We take the license plate and nice Swiss system here, push it down, it slides up, and then it gets locked in place with the little marketing banner. So there we go. That's the installation fully finished. So the car is now completely legal. I'm still not particularly happy with the gap. I think it looks pretty strange, but maybe it'll grow on me, maybe I'll get to ignore it. But certainly when you're parking, those of us living outside the US, we have to live with the fact that this is an enormous car for the parking spaces that we have, and so every centimetre that you can get at the front of the car really keeps the back of the car out of the way of the passing traffic. So yep, I would like if that was shorter, but it's not, so I'm going to keep it in there for now. Everything looks pretty nice and solid. That rubber puck that we saw in there is pushed up against the bottom of the air dam here, and so there should be no noises. If needs be, sometimes the number plates vibrate in these brackets, so sometimes you can put a little spring or a piece of foam behind the number plate inside the plastic bracket, and that will dampen that down. But we're going to give it a go there and see how we get on. So thanks very much for watching, and if you'd like to see more sort of detailed how-to guides and more information about Tesla, specifically here in Switzerland, then please hit that subscribe button, and see you next time.